Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rezzed Developer Sessions. We're here with SCS Software to talk about American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator, which you can see here now. I'm Adam Smith from Rock Paper Shotgun. Joining me is Alec.
Hello there, also from Rock Paper Shotgun.
And if you guys could introduce yourselves so I don't mispronounce your names.
Hi, I'm Ondřej Dufek, and I'm a lead map designer on American Truck Simulator.
Hi, I'm Hynek Svatoš, and I'm trying to tame the vehicle department.
So the first question I wanted to ask is kind of an audience question as well. When I first started playing truck simulator games, I don't care about trucks at all, and I was very surprised by how much I liked it. So I'm a map guy rather than a truck guy. And we had this experience at RPS where I played it, everyone laughed at me, and then they all started playing it and thought, this is amazing, actually. And I always had the theory that these games aren't really about driving trucks. They're not really about managing a trucking company. They're about exploring Europe or exploring America, having these experiences. And they're kind of like the driving simulator equivalent of walking simulators in some strange way to me. So is that something that you guys agree with? And how much of your audience is in that for the zen and the art of truck maintenance? And how many of them are there to be serious truckers?
Yeah, we know about it, and I think that the base idea when we started creating these games, the Zen experience wasn't like the main focus, but from my experience and from the data we had from ETS2 players, we found out that like 1/3 of our player base are truckers and fans of the sim. 1/3 is our children, small kids who like to drive cars, and 1/3 of our player base are the casual players who are looking for the Zen experience, for the road trip simulator, who enjoy the landscape, and they don't care about trucks that much.
Mm-hmm. And, sorry, yeah.
Are those things ever in conflict in terms of you've got people who really want a super realistic truck sim, whereas you want someone who can drive over a verge or hit a fence and be able to just about continue because they like the drive?
I guess not, because the nice landscape, it doesn't interfere with the simulation itself, because it's just the environment. So it doesn't matter if it's beautiful or nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, sometimes there are waiting what you kind of want to put in a game in a matter of gameplay. So you can have a casual players to enjoy the game, and you can have a serious sim players to enjoy the game. So you kind of have to find a way how to find the right point, what to put in a game, and what actually is too much and what is too less, too little basically. So, but otherwise, I believe that we are trying and we manage to get to the level of where anyone from the few years old kid to a 35, 40, 50 years old kid can enjoy, and they can find quite a few different approaches to the game which suits them. So we basically try to make it a bit of a sandboxy, and there are players who find it who find their way to it through the role-playing, through the company management, through the Zen experience, and through just loving trucks.
And so when you started to look at that data and realized that your player base wasn't necessarily what you expected or what you knew before, did that change the way you approach design? Because with ETS2, there's a definite jump up in visual quality, which obviously is what happens. That's how games progress. But it does seem like you're putting much more emphasis on environments and creating this sense of beauty.
I don't think that we are focusing on that much, but this idea is like reflected on the team members. Some team members are more technical. They like to create the accurate junctions and accurate signs, navigation, and this kind of stuff. And other team members, the map designers, are more artistic, and their main goal is to create the nice landscape, the nice vistas, and these people have to collaborate together, and so the final product incorporates both approaches. Yeah.
As Ondřej said, we have people who are really crazy about physics. There are guys who are really into how the engine works, how all the differentials on the track work, and there are people who are just in the nice graphics and in a flow of the game. So we are, I believe, the nice mix of all the possible approaches. So the game actually can be what it is and appeal to so a lot of people.
In terms of American Truck Simulator specifically, when a few years ago you said, yeah, we're going to make all 50 states of America, we can do that. Did you actually believe you would go on to do a project of that scale?
I guess we believed it because that many years ago when the project started, it was different time. The company was a lot smaller, and the map team on the ATS were like 2 people. Or 3. The scale of the game and then the scope and the amount of detail, it was lower, and over the time, when how time progressed and more people were hired and tools were improved, we upgraded the quality, and right now, yeah, the plan is still to create everything, but it's far away.
And do you have? I said I wouldn't ask this question, but I'm going to ask this question. Do you have a particular state that you look forward to as a designer? Like, I mean, because there's so much variety. I mean, there's 2 questions here actually. One is how you build a state. Like, do you look at photo references and then decide these are the things that are kind of archetypal of this place? These are the things that people will recognize. And how do you decide what the kind of color scheme of a state is? How do you differentiate them from each other?
This thing depends on 2 teams, on the map designers. We decide like the global picture, the wider relations between things. We choose in which cities we will be driving, which roads. Our world is in 1 to 20 scale, so we have to cut out 19 things from 20. And the micro detail, or how each assets look like, how trees look like, how buildings look like, it's on a graphics team. And we cooperate with them, and we have to gather rather large amounts of data and sort through them, and take only the informations which are important to us, like important to the landscape history, because we have to find out natural landmarks, man-made landmarks, economy for the gameplay, famous truck places.
Famous truck places?
Yeah.
What's a famous truck place?
Famous truck stops and rest stops.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Maybe some diners and this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I need to jump in here because I can't remember who it was, but I spoke to someone at SCS ages ago, and I'm going to say it again now, so it's on the record for everyone here and everyone who's watching elsewhere. I really want to be able to get out of my truck and go into a diner. And I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. I want to be able to go into a motel. I want to be able to go into a diner, and then there we go. It's said, you know.
We will see.
That's what they said last time.
Yeah, it takes a long time to implement new features.
Yeah.
Oh, but the game is moving. If you look at not the American Truck, but the Euro Truck, what it was 5 years ago and what it's now, it's kind of completely different game.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we try to make a platform of the sandbox, we add additional content, but we improve the base game as we go, and basically with every new DLC, kind of try to put in the new features to expand the simulation, to expand the fun, to expand the Zen experience.
What would be the dream feature for you guys if you could just add it, if the time and budget was there? What would you most like to see
Truck Simulator
added to the game?
Dream feature? I don't know, from my designer standpoint, all I need are better tools and high graphical fidelity, more memory to put more stuff in.
Alec was hoping you'd say Transformers.
They would be lovely. Well, for me, it's getting out of the truck. Maybe expanding the experience of actually being the truck driver or being in the world, and kind of even the maintenance around the truck, and doing that to put more into a player and his actual appearance in the game, not that you are just some abstract unit driving the truck, but that you are actually in there, so the feeling could be better.
Make it more human.
Yeah,
as you said, you would like to go outside the truck into the diner and buy a coffee, and
basically it becomes American Trucker Simulator rather than American Truck Simulator eventually, right? So, which there are games doing this kind of thing. I don't know if you know Jalopy. Wow. If anyone who doesn't know that, that's an indie game which is about maintaining a car and driving around Eastern Europe, and that has a lot of that stuff in. It's a very different game, obviously. But yeah, it's interesting that's, I think the RPG element of it is something that I think has not really been explored in driving games very often, even when they do have a management aspect. You tend to feel like you're a vehicle, not a person driving a vehicle.
We hope we will be able to improve this in future.
We've talked a lot about the landscapes and the ambience, but I guess to those of us who do play it like a Zen game, we maybe haven't paid as much attention to the truck side of it. So I wondered if you wanted to say what has improved and what you're most proud of in terms of the trucks as the game has developed.
I'm most proud of that we are kind of getting better references, that we are better in talking to companies, and that we can make the tracks more realistic, that we are able to, again, I have to go to Euro Truck Simulator, that we have some good partnerships with the companies, and they provide us with at least 3 days in their garage, and we could take all the pictures, and we kind of are trying to push that into States as well, but they are a bit farther. So hopefully for us, we will get the same amount of goodwill from the American truck companies, so we can make the tracks nicer, more detailful. We are changing the pipeline all the time, but we are in the 4th iteration of changing the pipeline, how we create the tracks, and we create them nicer and more hopefully future-proof than we used to. So that's what I kind of find really nice, that we can get to source of what we want to recreate and be able to do it quicker and in better quality.
And what is the biggest difference? I know my answer to this question, but in terms of working in Europe, in the game, building Europe and building a European truck simulator and building an American one, because it's a very different feeling. The game feels very different to me. And I wonder whether it does to you, or whether it's the same tools, obviously, but...
The tools are the same, but the problems we are facing are quite different. I think that the European landscape is more diverse, the highways are more curved. So in America, we are constantly fighting with viewing distances,
right.
and how... when we are recreating Arizona and New Mexico, there was lots of desert, and you have to find a way how to make the mundane thing look interesting, how to capture the spirit of the place. In Europe, this might be easier, but they are facing other challenges.
There's a question about spirit and reality, because you're capturing... you're recreating real places, but it does feel like it's more about the spirit. I mean, Alex's written about this quite a lot, how you're catching a sense of Americana as well as realism.
It's because you have a limited set of tools and a limited set of the building blocks from which you are creating the world. So your main goal is to capture the genius loci, the spirit of the place, because that's the main goal. You won't be able to recreate everything,
and it wouldn't be
by
much
the book
fun anyway. I don't think. It'd be too vast, and a lot of it's featureless. So,
and maybe less interesting for players, because right now when you are recreating like some section of the road, and as I said, in the scale 1 to 20, you have to throw many things out. You have to also recreate the boring. You cannot pick just the interesting places, but when you are trying to capture the spirit, you also have put the boring desert in to capture the feeling.
What are your feelings about going off-road in the game. It's not really possible, but occasionally you
Yeah.
find little clips and get through, and it kind of looks amazing. It gets a bit glitchy, but it looks incredible.
I've read your article about going beyond the boundaries. And yeah, the game is just smoke and mirrors, and it might look like it's open space, but it's narrow corridor or more wider corridor, and it's scenography. You are trying to the further from the player the things are, the less detailed they are because of performance issues and amount of time needed to make them. So yeah, the base premise is the player stays on the road and the detail is distributed accordingly. So I think we have few secret roads and secret places where you can drive from where you're supposed to be, but it's not like the main goal.
For anyone who doesn't know, Alec wrote an article where he went very deliberately off-road and discovered how surreal America gets very quickly if you go off-road. When someone hasn't built the whole of America and you get further and further away.
There's flying mountains and inverse lakes and stuff. It was one of the most
He was on a
memorable
Twin
gaming
Peaks binge at the time, so he was very happy. But yeah, I mean, it's very strange thing. Because obviously that's how it has to be. You know, you don't need to build further away from the roads because we can't go away from the roads. And yeah, there's an effect in Euro Truck Simulator 2, which I remember because you know, I live in the UK, so that's where I started my business in Manchester, where I'm from. And you know, doing those drives and realizing how you've kind of condensed this sense of what a place is, and it's most obvious in the cities to me because the cities are very small. That's one of the things that I've always wondered. It mess up the scale, I know, but I've always wanted the cities to be bigger, you know, because I just want more detail within cities. But it's a game really about the places in between those cities, I guess.
Yeah, I think you said it. Players are requesting larger cities, but it would be...
It would take, yeah, I mean...
it would take away the road, and the road is important too. So you cannot take this place and...
How do you decide when you build a city, which of the features are going to represent it? Because some of the cities, you know, some of them have obvious landmarks. You know, if you're going to do Paris, then there's certain things that you can show and people immediately say that's Paris. Manchester doesn't really have that, but you still got it in. You had I think it's the Hilton building you have in there, which is this giant... Manchester doesn't have a skyline, if anyone has not been. We have a really rubbish skyline. It's like one big building and lots of small ones. And you got that in there. And I was like, I didn't think anyone from outside Manchester knew that existed.
I think that during the project, during the development of Euro Truck and after that American trucks, the approach changed.
Right.
The early cities were made like, we asked ourselves which buildings are the largest and are the most prominent on the skyline, and we created them. And then was it like, how do we incorporate them into the city layout? Because we always to keep the illusion that the city is larger, we try to move on the tangent to the city, like not go around, but like next to it. So you are always in some logistic area, and the city is next to you. You never go into the center. But in ATS, I think it changed because there usually highway goes through the center, and yeah, and then the approach changed that we. Right now, don't pick the largest or the most prominent buildings, but we pick the interesting ones which are close to the player. So we recreate exact junctions and crossroads and this kind of stuff.
Has there been any talk of going back to some of the earlier cities and states with the new stuff you've learned, or is that just insanity when you've got so much left to do anyway?
I think... yeah, there were talks, and I think guys in Europe have something in their sleeves. But
Well, yeah, we are all the time fighting that the content kind of gets older, and as we get better and more optimized and the tools get better, that the content we already created is kind of falling behind. So we usually try to get back to it and improve on it, but it's kind of clashes with we want to create a new content as well.
Yeah.
So as we are growing, we have more manpower to actually go back and recreate some of really old stuff. So stuff like that is coming, and even in ATS, I believe there are some new roads added to the base game. So we try to improve on the original game as we go. So yes, hopefully as we get more people, we can polish what we left behind and make the whole map look the same. But that's more of Ondřej.
And this is a question for both of you, but. Did you, when you moved into game development, did you think, I'm going to make the whole of America in a truck simulator game? Was that ever a dream, or was that something that you think, well, that's a challenge? Because it's a very odd thing to do, and it's a very long-term project, and it takes a lot of commitment. And I just wonder if that was ever the plan. I don't think anyone ever had that plan, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't evident since the beginning.
No.
I actually applied to SCS to be a 3D modeler, and I end up as a
said
designer.
3D model America.
So the scale is totally different. And I never imagined that I would be recreating the whole America.
And as soon as you finish, you go on to World Truck Simulator,
Ah.
right?
Oh, we have World of Trucks, so that's where we are heading. So hopefully, in the future, we'll be able somehow to put everything together, so you can just travel from Europe to America. But well, me and Ondřej, we joined through the time that SCS was developing the truck simulators. So and I believe no one in SCS kind of expected it's going to be so big and that the company is going to grow so large, but it's happening and it's awesome, and that's thanks to all the guys who bought it and grows. But when I came to SCS 5 years ago, there was, I believe, 20 people. Right now we are 5 or 6 times bigger. So the rise, the growth of the company is really amazing. And
we still cannot wrap our heads around it. Like even the
sometimes
owners, they don't believe it.
There's a sense, I mean, that, and it's true with these games, sorry, it's true with farming simulator games. There's a sense, especially I think in the gaming press sometimes, that these are niche games, and they're not. They're huge games. You know, they're incredibly popular, and like you say, they're very popular with children as well. And that's true of farming simulator as well. And I'm always surprised that people didn't realize that this niche was actually going to explode at some point, you know, because these are the things we did when we were kids, right? We played with toy trucks, and, you know, and anyone who's got kids will probably tell you, I know that you and John tell me this all the time, they love watching trucks on YouTube and things like that, and there is an obvious appeal to it. It's a very, very, I don't know, I was going to say it's a very primal urge to drive a truck. It kind of is, though, right? I mean, there is a fantasy to it.
Whereas I'm having an existential crisis as I drive these road trips. My 5-year-old is just pointing at sheep and daffodils. But yeah, same concept.
So yeah, I mean, so I can see why it's a surprise, but at the same time, the audience was always there, I think, and I think it took longer for people to catch on to the fact these games weren't quite so niche than it should have done.
Well, I kind of see you can see it in the development of our games that we are slowly growing even in the audience. So I kind of believe that it's a niche market, but the people are there, and if we get to them, they'll find that the game is amazing and they start to play it. But as the SCS grows, we grow on as our community grows. So we are kind of here because of our community. So we try to maintain them as good as possible to fulfill most of their dreams, which are realistic, and we can put them in a game. So I believe it's partly a niche game, and there are people interested in huge tracks, there are people interested in a huge train, so there are people interested in tracks. But as well, it's working with the community, and I believe that a huge part of our game is actually giving the freedom to all the people there to be creators as well, and then they can create maps as we do, and that they can put content in our game as they feel free, as they feel like. So that's something what helps us to grow as well, because well, there is just 120 of us or how much, but there is unlimited manpower out there which can make our game even better, and we try to provide them the tools to do so.
Do you already know like the exact order you're going to do all the other states in an American Truck Simulator, or each time you sit down and plan a new?
There is like general plan, like directions. We need to connect the states together, so it's not like right now we can jump to the East Coast. Yeah, so there's a plan.
You're going to be very
it's not like there is no list order of the all rest of the states with some planned release dates or something like that. No.
The first time you can do coast to coast is going to be a good day, right? I mean, that's the kind of romantic dream,
just
right?
Texas.
Yeah.
We will be there.
What happens to Alaska and Hawaii?
Yeah.
Hawaii is a difficult one, but Alaska is okay. We are American Truck Simulator, not the US Truck Simulator, so even Canada counts.
Fair, yeah.
We've talked a lot about American Truck Simulator, but can we expect Euro Truck Simulator 2 to be something that continues? There isn't that sense that Europe is done now, we can just concentrate.
Definitely not. We still have quite a lot of Europe in front of us, and as I said, we try to make the game as a platform, and we want to provide more content, and we want to provide more features, and that's kind of what I believe we are proving with all the development. The Euro Truck Simulator came out 5 years ago or something like that, and the game is still living and it's still growing in a community, in the audience, in the players. So yeah, Europe is as live as America is. So we try to work on both projects, and I believe it's shown in the DLC, it's shown in trucks, hopefully. So yes, both of those projects are alive. And we hope in the future we'll have some umbrella projects about them.
And yeah, I mean, that we touched on that earlier, but the idea of plugging all these things together eventually, you know, it seems like an obvious thing to do, you know, to connect everything as you build more and more things. And obviously you have World of Trucks, which, you know, is, but is the idea eventually to make the one game, or is that just an impossibility?
I think that the idea is there.
Yeah,
but the way is long.
Yeah,
I believe there is the idea of an online platform which will kind of connect both of the games, so you can have the experience of both of the games, and there's going to be some project about World of Trucks, hopefully in the future, which will connect it in some
meaningful way.
Yeah, working way.
We should talk about what we're seeing on the screen, because this is what's coming next, right? So,
no, I think the
the
screenshots are through all the projects.
Oh,
for example, this is Arizona, but I think they already was there. There were some exclusive shots from Oregon, which we are working on right now.
Oh, they've vanished now. Yeah, sorry, I'm behind.
We are looking really forward to this because, again, I think. We pushed the envelope, the graphics blew it out of the water.
So what's a great truck place in Oregon?
Yeah, there are a few famous truck stops. Biggs Junction, it's up to the north near the Dales. This is a famous place. And on top of my head, I don't remember any other name, but yeah, there will be various iconic truck stops.
What can we expect from Oregon in terms of feel? You know, the other states have really had a character and identity. What's Oregon's?
Oregon is, again, totally different than California or the New Mexico or Arizona. It's a lot greener. There's lots more of water. And yeah, the landscape is really diverse. The vegetation is diverse, and yeah, there are mountains, desert, shore, everything.
Does that affect sort of the nature of the roads and also the way the trucks have to handle them? Is there new things you're having to contend with?
I think there are some widening roads, and it's not that straight. It's not a straight line through the desert. It's more poetic.
And hopefully with Oregon we are bringing a new feature in kind of chains. So as there is a huge forestry industry, we kind of want to implement the whole chain of getting the lumber, moving the lumber to the factories, and moving the furniture from the factory. So we want to implement some more natural flow of the cargo that should come with the Oregon as well. So there should be even a slight change in actually feeling for the word realism.
Yeah, so you can accept some dirty forest roads, something more bumpy and interesting than flat highways.
The idea of management, product chains and amplifying the kind of management side more is something that I haven't really thought about because it's not really how I play the game. But one of my favorite games is Transport Tycoon, right? And Transport Tycoon, old isometric management game, and you build trains and buses and lorries, and you move goods from one place to another. There is now in my head, Euro Truck Simulator, American Truck Simulator, having that aspect to it. I hadn't thought about that, but actually simulating the product chains more, and I'm not saying you're going full simulation on that, but having that idea of meaningful jobs rather than just taking the job that pays the most. Or I didn't know that was something you were doing. Yeah.
That's where we want to go, and kind of for our future beneficial that once we get to cargoes, you can kind of just move the lumber back and forth, and you kind of get a better feeling for the word realism. So that's not just a feature by itself, but it's going to expand in the future, and it should bring new features and better simulation, basically.
Will that extend to the drivers you hire, who at the moment, they basically just automatically generate money for you? It could move on to you have to pick the most efficient routes or specialties and things?
Well, that kind of economic simulation, yeah, we might get there in the future, but it's the whole economical system behind Euro Truck and American Truck is put there to be challenging, but not to be the main point of the game. So we are not just a manager game, but we still focus more on the actual being in the world and driving the truck. So yeah, we plan some changes even in economics, but we still focus more on actual driving around. So.
Okay, we're going to go to the audience for some questions now. While we set that up, if you've got questions, then get ready to answer now. You can come to the middle, there'll be a mic. But first of all, who's actually played Truck Simulator? I'm assuming people have here. Okay, so how many people are Zen players and how many are Sim players? Zen players, hands up. Sim players? Okay, and there's a crossover, right? Or are you Sim players just like, what the hell are they talking about? So, right, let's come up to the microphone. You can ask those questions or answer those questions, and anything else. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm a Zen Sim player, so
yes.
I like both, which makes me almost automatically into VR, so I'm into VR, Euro Truck, and actually I found it kind of very odd that VR for single player was supported so quickly. It was a very popular multiplayer mod for the game that I think was only ever not able to come in because the base game never supported. We're always in a beta branch for VR, and I was just wondering, what's your direction in respect to VR now in 2018? Is that ever going to come to the point where the base game will have multiplayer, or the base game will have multiplayer in VR? I'm just curious about that.
Well, I'll try to answer it, but the VR branch is mostly maintained by one of our main programmers, and it's his toy, so we are really grateful that he does that, but so we try to keep the VR branch living, and multiplayer right now is a bit hacked our exe and put it in and maintained by different people. So we in the future kind of would like to continue in our product and implement the multiplayer and the VR in it as well. So we want to stick with it, but we would like to make it in our own way. we are grateful for the multiplayer guys that they do their stuff, and it's kind of bringing more attention to our game. But if we would want to make it seriously, we have to put much more effort in it, and it has to be much more flawless and smooth experience. So yes, we want to move the direction, and kind of World of Trucks is the way which kind of covers it, but it will take some time.
I'll keep hope. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right, so talking about the future, the immediate future in American Truck Simulator development. In terms of the direction on the American Truck Simulator map, I'd like to ask you, what states do you plan to go? Whether you plan to go east from Oregon or whether you plan to go north from Oregon?
Well, right now, as the map team grew, I think we will be spreading our nets wide. So we will go in every possible way. So I cannot talk about concrete state, but yeah, there are few states in work right now, and yeah. We will try to get to the second shore, to the
it's not a direct answer to that question. It's not a direct answer to the question. I think that it's hard to answer because things are still in malleable. You don't know exactly yet. Yeah. But they're talking about the map team growing. I mean, that's worth mentioning, I think, in response to that question, because you are trying to speed things up, right? And through growth, yeah.
Right now, the growth somehow slowed us down, but it's investment in the future, and in the future we will be able to produce content more quickly. So
the answer is north, east, and south.
Yeah. If every guest
we want to get to Canadian
now, find the remaining 45 states.
Do you take questions about Euro Truck Simulator 2? In this?
Yep.
Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of rebuilding the base map, do you plan to start work on that some point in the future?
Yes.
I think we hinted something here. So
yeah. We know that we have our problems in the base map, which is quite old, and it's probably some parts of it are from German Truck Simulator or something like that. So we want to fix it, and we are working on it probably right now.
So stay tuned, you will hear something about it soon.
Okay, so that's my question, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
Thank you. So ETS2 came up like 5 years ago. Are you finding the game engine a limitation to expanding states further and improving the graphics? Because I don't know, looking at Flight Simulators in comparison, Microsoft came out with new versions probably every year or two, but as ETS2 has been out for so long, just wondering what your view is and whether there's been any consideration upgrades to either Vulkan or maybe a later version of DirectX. But last thing, since I'm a Linux gamer, and I really thank you for supporting Linux for so long, it's well, there weren't that many Linux games out there 5 years ago, so just thanks again.
Okay. Just to answer the engine question, we kind of have to wait in that still quite a lot of our players is not playing it on high-end computers, so we still have to maintain those players. But as you can see on Eurotruck, it's kind of obvious that for the last 5 years, the game, what it was 5 years ago, is completely different game in a matter of graphics. What it's right now, it's partly because of better assets, partly because of better lighting, and right now part of our programmers is redoing the under the hood stuff, so we are preparing to move forward, hopefully. We all as artists would love it. We would love to have PBR, we would love to be on DirectX, whatever will come, or on Vulkan. So yes, we want to go there, but we still have to kind of maintain the legacy of the game, so we can provide all the players who bought it with still the playable experience. So yeah, it's complicated and technical issue, and we are working on it, and we want to move forward definitely, because at least from us as artists, it's a bright future. We want to have more of everything.
And do we have any more? We got time for one more question. If anybody has anything that they want to ask, or if anyone wants to give a shout out to another operating system, we'll take that as well. And if not, then we'll say thank you to the guys from SCS, and thank you for everyone watching at home. Thank you for everyone here. Thanks to Alec for joining me, because I roped him in last minute, because he cannot stay away from truck simulators. Yeah, and enjoy the rest of Rezzed, and enjoy your evenings. Thank you very much.